Day 3 of taking Vyvanse after my recent ADHD diagnosis. If you've been tuning into this channel, you'll know that I've been posting daily about my experience, and this is day 3 of taking 30 milligrams of Vyvanse. I want to start, I guess, by reflecting on yesterday, because I don't think I stressed enough how it definitely did make a difference to my ability to concentrate. So I was job hunting yesterday and I searched every major job board, every local council within a 50-mile radius, and a lot of the major employers in my area. I searched every single one of those job boards for all the jobs they posted in the last month. And I was probably job hunting non-stop for about 8 hours, something along those lines, and that was also in front of a television that was playing, and I managed to do that without any kind of distraction, non-stop. Didn't enjoy it, didn't feel good about it, found it really boring. It didn't light me up, but I was able to do it, whereas before I would have really struggled, particularly with being distracted when doing stuff like that. So it has definitely made a difference to my ability to concentrate on things. I talked a lot yesterday about the anxiety that it had given me, and I think that was in part because I took my morning dose on an empty stomach, and I don't think that's advisable, for me at least. Some people have tried it with stimulant medication and they found that it helped them get out of bed, but for me it just gave me a really kind of anxious, nervous energy that I really struggled to shake for the whole day. Today I changed that, so I made sure that I had a decent sized breakfast. I was actually able to eat all of it, and then I took medication, and I also went for a run as well. So I think a lot of that anxious energy I was able to kind of burn up this morning going for a run. Anxiety is very much still there at the forefront. I think one of the biggest things I've noticed as well is my lack of appetite, and this is not an uncommon symptom. Vyvanse is used off-label as an appetite suppressant. It's for people with binge eating disorder. They'll prescribe it to them, and that is definitely something that I've noticed. I have struggled a lot with binge eating. It's one thing that I do when I get bored, and I'm lucky in the sense that I've always managed to make sure that I'm binge eating something that's at least healthy. So one of the things I eat is like blueberries, but whatever it is, whatever packet that I open, I cannot stop until it is finished. And I know at the time that I'm not actually hungry, that I don't actually want them things. I just want something to do. And so when I'm bored, eating is one thing that I turn to. And it has been odd for the last few days that I haven't had any desire to snack, and my appetite has certainly been much lower than it would ordinarily be. Some people might say that as a good thing. I have been trying to lose a bit of weight. I found that when I was in my 20s, I found it a lot easier to eat what I wanted and not necessarily gain any weight, but when I got into my 30s, it got a little bit more difficult, and I think most people can relate to that. It's harder to stay in shape. So that's nice in a sense, but what comes with that is a sense of weakness as well. I've always had this weird relationship with food, and again, this can be a symptom of ADHD, or so I've seen, is that you don't realise you're hungry until you're shaking and you feel really weak. And I had some massive issues with insomnia, particularly when I was going to the gym for years, and I could not work it out whatsoever. And it even got to the point where my testosterone levels had absolutely tanked. And all it was is because I was overtraining and not eating enough. And what I find now is that I will really struggle to get to sleep if I haven't eaten properly. And so sometimes when I'm struggling to get to sleep and I notice I've got feelings of hunger, I'll just sneak downstairs and have a couple of teaspoons of peanut butter, and that'll sort me out. But because my appetite's been so dysregulated, it's hard to know when I genuinely feel hungry or not. And the other thing I've noticed is that when I do eat, I tend to have some nausea. It doesn't last forever, but it is definitely something that I have noticed, that I feel a bit sick when I eat. I'm hoping that's something that will eventually go, but definitely something to bear in mind, and something that I have noticed as part of my experience. So yeah, it's 5 answers affected my sleep, but I don't think in the same way that it affects other people's. It is a stimulant, and a lot of people struggle to get to sleep. I haven't had a problem getting to sleep. My problem has been staying asleep because I've been woken up by hunger pains. So yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on. What else has been noticeable? Like I said, this sense of underlying anxiety is there, more so than it ordinarily would be, but it's a physical anxiety rather than a mental one. So I don't have tons of stuff going on in my head all the time, and I find it a lot easier, for instance, to have this chat without a ton of other thoughts going on in my head and losing my train of thought. So that has been nice, but the feelings of anxiety I've had have been physical symptoms, so like a racing heart, heart palpitations, and it's kind of like this nervous energy, but there's no reason for it. And that was much worse yesterday. It has been a lot more under control today, but what I have noticed is my understanding that the way that stimulant medications work is to raise your baseline of dopamine. And what I've noticed is there was a couple of occasions today where I have done activities that would ordinarily pre-medication spike my dopamine levels. The first situation was I spoke to a friend of mine that I haven't spoke to for a while, and he's also going through his ADHD struggles, and I felt like we really kind of connected, and it was really nice to speak to someone that's going through the same experience. And when I noticed we were having this connection, I had this surge of really excitable energy, which could be construed as anxiety, and it felt like too much energy. Like I was too excitable, and my reaction wasn't necessarily appropriate for the circumstance. I don't know. It's odd to feel that level of nervous excitement, because I don't often feel it. And the second occasion was when I was reading through my YouTube comments. So a few days ago, I posted my first video about actually getting diagnosed with ADHD and shared my experiences of things so far. And when I was going through those comments, like always, this normally lights me up. Hearing that me sharing my experiences has helped other people. And I noticed that when I was going through my channel and the comments that you guys leave, I was really excited to hear about everyone's experiences and to reply. And I was typing manically and my hands were a bit shaky. So there's two experiences there. I've noticed that things that would ordinarily get me excited get me really excited. And I don't know if that's a good thing, whether that reaction is going to calm down slightly. It feels like my level of excitement is too high for the circumstance, and I hope I don't get in a situation that would spike my dopamine too much, because I think I'd probably have a heart attack. So yeah, been a really mixed bag, and that experience with dopamine spiking as well. It's knowing what it feels like to have higher dopamine now, I can relate it to a lot of other experiences in my life where I have been excited, like I've had a really good connection with someone, or I've done something maybe a little bit risky, like rode too fast on my motorbike, or when I went cliff diving in Thailand. There's a lot of experiences where I've felt this excitable energy, and now I can now label that as dopamine, and that is useful because if I did ever decide to come off medication, it is good to know what I should be looking for and how that feels in my body. Because people with ADHD do have lower baseline dopamine levels, and we need to figure out how we can lead lives that manage that and give us higher levels so that we can live lives that we're happy with, or at least experience some kind of like joy in life rather than feeling kind of low and flat all the time. And I think that's why a lot of people have antidepressive effects, anti-anxiety effects from taking ADHD medication, because it raises that dopamine level and it makes you excited about life again. And when you lead a life that doesn't give you any kind of natural dopamine, it's very easy to feel listless and flat and grey and depressed and anxious. And I can kind of see that now. And it's also got me wondering whether my ADHD is severe enough to warrant taking medication. This is normal for me to make a big decision and to doubt it a few days later. I am going to stick the course. I've got a 30-day supply, and I'm at least going to stick for the 30 days to see what happens. But I find myself wondering whether the choices that I've made in life just don't give me the things that I need, and that would I benefit or feel better if I was just to change some or make some lifestyle changes versus taking stimulant medication. The way I see it is that when you're in a bad place, when you're in a low place, it's very difficult to make the changes necessary for you to be happier in life. It's particularly when you're feeling really low, it's hard to get yourself to go to the gym and to eat right and to look after yourself. It's difficult to do those things, whereas ADHD medication can give you that dopamine, can give you that drive to get up and do those things. And I'm kind of hoping that by taking ADHD medication, and Vyvanse in particular, that I can set a baseline, or build a baseline level of happiness for myself, so that if I was to come off, that I would still be able to get dopamine from natural sources, by living a life that is more in line with the way my brain works. And I think that's what's so insidious about suffering. I mean, can you call it suffering? I don't know. But having ADHD is that we live in a neurotypical world, and particularly when you get a later diagnosis, whether it's in your late 20s, 30s, or you hear of people getting diagnosed in their 80s, we have grown up in a neurotypical world where people do things, or the majority of people do things, and when we can't do them, we're made to feel like there is something wrong with us and that we have some kind of deficit. It's in the title, attention deficit disorder, and we don't have a deficit of attention. We just have different things that interest us, because we all know that we can get super fixated on a particular topic and be totally lost in it for days, weeks sometimes. So we clearly don't have an issue with attention. It's just we find certain things really boring, and boring to the point that it's completely undoable and unmanageable, whereas other people might find those things boring but they manage to get on with it, a bit like my experience with job hunting yesterday. But yeah, we've grown up in a neurotypical world, and it's really hard to undo a lot of those negative beliefs that you've built about yourself, feeling like you should have done better, and wondering why it takes you twice as long and you have to work twice as hard as everyone else to get the same results. And that is part of the problem with ADHD. I think when you get a diagnosis, it's a real roller coaster of emotions. It's validating in some ways, but there's also an element of anger that it wasn't picked up earlier. And then a feeling of kind of, what the hell do I do next? And I think it's really important that whether you've got ADHD or not doesn't really make a difference, but we just start asking what things would make us happy in life, and to not necessarily feel guilty about what answers come back, and not feel guilty about living a life that brings us joy and happiness. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, as long as whatever it is that interests you isn't harming anyone else, then do it, or find a way to have it in your life somehow. And I think a lot of the damage for me has been feeling like there's something that interests me, getting obsessed about that topic to the detriment of normal neurotypical things, and then being made to feel like that is unhealthy in some ways. I feel like I've gone off on a bit of a rant, but this was only supposed to be a day 3 update. But the more you start to learn about ADHD, the more pieces start to fall into place, and the more you start to question everything else that's going on in life. But I think the most important thing for me at the moment is it's validated my experiences, and it's made me feel like I'm not broken and I'm not wrong. I'm just different to the majority of people that are out there, and there is nothing wrong with that. And in fact, a lot of very successful entrepreneurs, a lot of very successful artists, very successful people in general are neurodiverse. They have ADD, ADHD, and they think outside the box, and those things drive us forward. You know, I was listening to a podcast today with a guy said that the guy that invented the wheel almost certainly had ADD, because he was a guy that just thought outside the box. So I definitely want to create more videos about how ADHD affects our lives, but I'm going to cut this video short now because I feel like I could just rant for ages. But yeah, in summary, day 3 on Vyvanse has been better than it was yesterday. I feel less anxiety. Hunger is back somewhat, so I feel like the symptoms that were quite bad yesterday were certainly still here today, but they've been leveled out slightly. And I think a big part of that is that it's my system, my body's getting used to it, but also taking the medication early in the morning with a decent sized high protein breakfast. So that's my experience. Let me know in the comments, as always, if this video helped you in some way, if you're going through the experience yourself. Maybe you've just started medication, and like I said earlier, it's the comments that really light me up and keep me going and making these videos. And it's so nice to see that me sharing my experiences with you is helpful in some way. So yeah, keep me posted in the comments. Let me know what's going on with you, and I will post a new video tomorrow. Thanks for watching.